Welcome, everyone, to another Tea Time with Amanda Prochaska. Today, we're so excited to be with you because we are going to be kicking off a 5-part series all about how to lead change. And we have a methodology called Alice that we're going to dive in today, starting with acting with authenticity. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, before we dive in, grab your tea, grab your coffee. I know I have one today that is super special. It's a blueberry, citrus, basil today, and my cup is queen of everything, and we're going to get into that here because really what I am so charged with and so passionate about is helping you become queens and kings of change management. And it's not easy. Nobody really tells you how to do that, like how to become a really good change leader. So we thought that we would do a 5-part series all about Alice. Alice is our methodology at Wonder Services around how we help leaders lead change. And it's an acronym, of course, but we're going to go through today the first one, which is the A, and that's acting with authenticity. And it's pretty straightforward. We hear about authenticity a lot as leaders, but it becomes very, very hard to lead with authenticity when you're leading change. And I think there's a couple of reasons for that. Usually when you're leading change, you're super jazzed about the opportunity that you're leading, that it's going to change things in your world. It's going to help your company be more successful. And because of that, sometimes we can get carried away with our language and maybe not hearing the people with questions or objections. So, we're going to go through 3 different ways that you can improve your authenticity as a change leader so that you can become a queen of or a king of change. So, let me take a sip here because it's so darn good. And let's get going on number 1. Number 1 is not overpromising. And I'm going to tell you a little bit of a story. So one of the change initiatives that I was originally working on was an SAP implementation. I actually had an opportunity to do 3 of those over my career. And I'm still living and hear proof that you can live through 3 SAP implementations. But one of them, we had a very strong vision, very strong language around where we wanted to go. And I was really, really excited about it because I thought this is really going to help the company. It's really going to help my people and even our suppliers at the end of the day. And so I was going out there and I was like, this is what we're doing. This is how it's going to get done. And this is going to solve SAP, believe it or not, is going to solve all of your issues that we're experiencing in procurement. And that's how it was coming across. And unfortunately, when you do that as a leader, you might be really excited about it, but you create 2 camps of people. You create people who don't believe you in the first place. They've been around the block enough to know that a technology implementation is not going to solve all of their problems. It might solve some of their problems. It might improve some of their day-to-day, but it's not going to solve all of their problems. So you're going to get people who are already resistant just because of the language that you're using. The second group of people is those people that are all in with you. They're like really jazzed. They're like, yeah, Amanda, yeah, Jane, yeah, Joe, we're all in. We're gonna do this with you. And then what happens at the end of the day is that they're super disappointed because it didn't solve all of their issues. It solved some of their issues and maybe created some benefits here and there. Hopefully more than not, but it usually doesn't solve all of the problems. So what we recommend to leaders is when you're talking about benefits, it's also equally important to talk about the work that needs to be done, the hard work, the rolling up the sleeves, the picking yourself up by your bootstraps, whatever you want to call it, the hard work that has to go in to the change. So you can talk about the vision, you can talk about the benefits, but then coupling that with the hard work usually gets people to think about, okay, we're heading down this direction, but this leader is actually talking about the work that we all need to do to get there. And that is a way to truly be authentic in the journey, because no transformation, no continuous improvement opportunity, whatever type of change you're leading, comes without work. It's an individual change. That individual needs to do work around learning something new or understanding how things are going to be done. And then as an aggregate, there's usually a lot of other work that needs to happen to make sure that change is successful. So that's item number one. Don't overpromise, but the tip here is whenever you're talking about the vision or the benefits, couple that with the work that needs to be done, because then that will truly help you become that authentic leader that everyone's really looking for as they're going through a change. So, item number two, I'm going to pause again. We're becoming queens and kings of change through acting with authenticity. But the second recommendation that I have is relate through stories. Stories are so powerful in the way that people can put themselves in someone's shoes and really feel the emotion or the change or the reaction, whatever that story is trying to tell them, is really, truly powerful. And I'll tell you a story here, and it actually relates to not over promising and what can happen when you get so excited as a leader. So, and this has nothing to do with work, and I've shared this story on other formats. So if you've already heard it, I apologize, but it was so relevant. So we were thinking about 6 to 8 months ago. We were thinking about moving, and we were looking at homes, and there was a home that was south of here in a neighborhood that was just perfect for us. And we went and toured the home, and it was gorgeous, and it would have worked so well for us, and it had some unique quirks to it, which I loved, and a pool in the backyard, and I could instantly see our family living there. And at the time, we looked at it without our kids, but we were so my husband and I were like, this could be a really great option for us. So we decided to bring the kids back to come see it. And on the way to going to see the house, I was going on and on and on about how perfect this house is, and it's going to be an amazing opportunity for our family, and that the neighborhood is full of kids, um, and and then I looked at my youngest and I said, "Hey, are you excited about this?" And she looked at me, straight face, no emotion. She just looked at me and she goes, "I don't even want to talk about it." And I was like, what? Like, why don't you want to talk about it? What kind of response is that? And I started getting upset at her because I was like, I don't understand your perspective. Why couldn't you be excited about this? And so I started kind of responding in that manner. And she just started getting more upset and more upset. Not a very good change leadership moment on my part. And my husband luckily stepped in, and he started asking her some really, really great questions about why she was reacting that way. And come to find out, it was really just about not wanting to move away from her friends that were closer to the neighborhood that we're living in right now. And so that that kind of storytelling, first of all, I hope it makes the point come across. Like, that can happen so easily as a leader, where you are super excited, and just like I was, like, oh, this is going to be so perfect. And then when you hear feedback or hear resistance, the first reaction is to get upset. And that's actually not great change leadership. It's not acting with authenticity. And the best thing to do is like what my husband did, and ask some really, really great questions. So that's the power of a story. A story can reflect on a lesson learned. It can put a point across around what how things could be done, how things could be done better. It could also, if you use the story correctly, help explain the work that needs to go into change. So that's item number 2. Relate via stories. It is a huge, huge opportunity for leaders to not just talk about what's going on, but create an emotional reaction. Be relatable, and those stories are going to do both. So the last, but definitely not the least, around acting with authenticity that we usually like to talk about at Wonder Services when we are helping leaders lead change is listen and act on feedback. Um, and again, we get into the moment, and sometimes it's hard to hear the feedback. You're working so hard on a change and you want it to be successful. And here's Bob over here always complaining, quote unquote, about the change. Well, really, if you're going to act with authenticity, you really need to take a moment not only to listen to Bob's feedback, but then also act on it. Recognize that everyone is going to have their own perspective. That's what makes change so difficult. But good change leaders seek feedback throughout the change journey. So not just to go live, it's actually after go live if you have a go live of the change. And you're continually seeking and requesting that feedback and then acting on it, because all of that feedback is going to make your change more effective. The feedback could be like something that wasn't communicated clearly, or questions that you didn't consider. Or if Bob's really just complaining, then probably other people are feeling the same way. So, what can you do about those insights to build it into how you're interacting with your influencers, or how you are communicating, or even what you're doing in training? So all of that feedback can be incorporated. But it's not only about making your change better and more effective through listening to this feedback and acting on it, but it also allows you to show people that you're really authentic, that you mean what you say, and that you're going to follow through with their concerns. It's building trust and making sure that people really know that you understand that they're going to have feedback and concerns and questions, and that you welcome it. And this, again, these 3 areas that I just went through seem really simple. Like, yeah, I could do that. I know that I can. But when you get into change initiatives, especially when there's a lot going on, if you're deploying a technology alongside of it, or if you're merging two organizations together, or going through a major organizational change, there's a lot to think through and a lot of feedback that you're probably going to get. But so in the day to day, it's not overly easy to do these things. It's a lot more easy, at least for me, when I was leading change in corporate. It was a lot easier to have an emotional reaction and be like, Bob, always complaining. Like, I don't need to hear his complaints anymore. We're not going to be able to do anything about it. It's a very, very easy thing to get into because you're stressed and under pressure. But I tell you what, if you can remember these 3 points, you are going to be a queen or king of change management. So those are 3 simple tips. We could go through a lot more about acting with authenticity, but we love at Wonder Services to talk about how we help leaders lead change, and acting with authenticity is just the first one. The next one we're going to be talking about is the L in Alice, which is leading with love, something that a word that's not used in corporate very often, the word love, but it goes a long way when you are leading change. So we'll talk about that next time. So stay tuned for the next tea time. But until then, I do want to recommend, and I don't know if you know this, but we love creating content to help you, and we have a newsletter that we'll provide the link to below, so that you can sign up to even get more content around how to lead change, how to lead effective change management, and all other kinds of topics related to change management and change leadership. So we are thrilled to be able to provide that to you. So if you like this channel, not only subscribe and like this video and share it with your friends if you could, but then also subscribe to our newsletter. We would love to have you on board and continuing to learn from each other through that newsletter. So with that said, cheers, keep up the great work, everyone, and we will see you on the next tea time. Thank you.